You are not ready for what I'm about to tell you. I mean it. Forget the messy fights over toothbrushes, the passive-aggressive comments about Gino's hats. The dramatic airport reunions. We're going way deeper than that, because what we just uncovered changes everything we thought we knew about Jasmine and Gino. This isn't just another toxic 90-day fiancé couple spiraling into chaos on camera. This is something darker, more calculated, more dangerous. A friend turned whistleblower has just come forward with screenshots, voice memos, and private DMs that expose a truly shocking allegation. Jasmine isn't just in it for the green card. She's allegedly waiting for Gino to die so she can collect his inheritance. And yes, there's proof. Now hold up. Because I know some of y'all are thinking this is just another wild internet rumor. But baby, this is different. This is specific. This has receipts. These messages go back months, possibly even before she officially moved to the U.S., where Jasmine allegedly talked to her inner circle about Gino's life insurance policy, his assets, and a plan to be taken care of in the long run. One DM literally says, "I don't have to do anything crazy, I just need to be patient. He's older, his health is bad, the stress is doing the work for me." You guys, when I tell you my jaw hit the floor reading that, let's be real. Jasmine has always had a flair for the dramatic. From the start, she's played the role of the hot-tempered beauty with a heart of gold. She cries, she explodes. She makes passionate declarations of love only to then spiral into a jealous rage over the smallest thing. But now, seeing what's happening behind the scenes, it starts to look less like emotional volatility and more like emotional manipulation. We all remember how she reacted when Gino brought up the prenup. She went from zero to devastated in less than a minute, weaponizing her tears, accusing him of not trusting her, spinning it into his betrayal, and then magically, within a few days, she was back to calling him her soulmate and gushing about the wedding. Now, knowing what we know, that whole breakdown looks like strategy. Because what's the one thing a prenup would block her from accessing? Yep, his assets. And let's talk about Gino. Poor, sweet, awkward Gino. A man who just wanted love and found himself entangled in what might be the most emotionally manipulative plot we've seen on this show. Gino isn't stupid, but he's vulnerable. He's non-confrontational, riddled with anxiety, desperate to keep the peace, and Jasmine knows exactly how to play that. She screams. He apologizes, she threatens to leave, he begs, she cries, and he starts wiring money. It's a pattern, one that's been building for seasons. And now it looks like it was never about the relationship, it was about the reward. And this is where it gets really sinister. Because the insider who leaked these receipts claims Jasmine boasted to her friends about Gino's life insurance. She allegedly said, "When we're married and something happens, I'll be fine. It's all written." The policy is solid. That wasn't said in fear. That wasn't concern for her partner. That was a smirk, a smug confidence that she'd secured the bag, and all she had to do was wait. I hate to even say this, but when you watch her now when she rubs his shoulders, calls him her sweet Gino, and tells the cameras how she's finally learning to love him, you can almost see the wheels turning, like she's playing a role, delivering just enough warmth to keep the money flowing, the process moving, and Gino firmly under her spell. Because if the goal is to secure that inheritance, she needs to play the long game. And make no mistake, Jasmine knows how to perform. Think about how many times she's threatened to leave him. How many times she's created a scene so intense, Gino was left trembling. But somehow, they always make up and she comes back just long enough to reset the cycle. Why? Because the longer she stays, the closer she gets to being his legal wife. And once that ring is on her finger and that paper is signed, the money is one heart attack away. Now, let's talk about the voice memo leak, because this right here is where it all flips. A few weeks ago, an anonymous source shared an audio recording that allegedly features Jasmine ranting to a friend. And this isn't the sobbing, frantic Jasmine we see on TV. This is calm, cold, calculated Jasmine. In the memo, she says, "You think I would leave Gino? I've worked too hard for this. He's worth more to me stress than calm. I kid you not." Those were her words. Let that sink in. She's not trying to create peace. She's counting on the stress, and if that's not chilling enough. The source says Jasmine joked that she already picked out the furniture for her house. Once Gino was gone, the entitlement, the audacity, it's not even subtle anymore. And I know what some of y'all are thinking, but maybe she's just joking. Maybe it's dark humor. Listen, jokes have context, but when someone is repeatedly referencing someone's death, tying it to money and showing no signs of genuine love, it's not a joke. It's a confession wrapped in sarcasm. You ever get that feeling where a storyline suddenly makes way too much sense in hindsight? That's what this feels like. Every red flag we ignored is now blinking in neon, and the timing, it couldn't be more suspicious. Right after Gino adjusted his life insurance policy, Jasmine did a complete 180. She went from threatening to stay in Panama to packing her bags with a smile. And you know what? It's the little things that expose the big truths, like how Jasmine suddenly became fixated on Gino's health, asking about his diet, pretending to care about his blood pressure, only to then instigate screaming matches and tearful arguments days later. If that's not a cycle of intentional stress, I don't know what is. And here's where I pause, because if this is true, we're not just talking about manipulation. We're talking about a long-term, premeditated con, and Gino, he might just be the perfect victim. Lonely, loyal, and tragically unaware. What really sends shivers down my spine is the way Jasmine moves in waves. She explodes, disappears, and then reemerges more polished, more seductive, more in control. It's like she knows exactly when to retreat and when to strike. Think about it. Every time Gino starts regaining his footing, maybe questioning her motives, Jasmine shifts. She becomes soft, gentle. She taps into his insecurities, reminds him he's lucky to have her, and suddenly the power dynamic resets. That's not spontaneity, that's control, and Gino, bless his heart, isn't just complicit. He's conditioned to view her moods as unpredictable instead of strategic. Conditioned to see her chaos as passion instead of manipulation. Conditioned to feel responsible for her pain, even when he's done absolutely nothing wrong. That kind of emotional programming doesn't happen by accident. It happens when someone rewrites the rules so slowly, you don't even realize the game has changed. And here's something no one's talking about: the money trail. Jasmine came into this relationship talking about love. But the moment Gino opened the door to financial support, her tone changed. First, it was gym memberships and cosmetic procedures. Then, school costs for her kids, then rent, then savings. The deeper Gino went, the more she expected, and yet, every time he dared to set a boundary, whether it was a prenup or slowing down the visa, Jasmine broke down. She used tears like weapons. She made him feel like denying her was denying love. But here's the real kicker: someone close to Gino, a distant relative who's remained silent until now, reached out after seeing all the speculation online, and what they shared might be the most disturbing piece yet. According to this family insider, Jasmine made direct comments at a family dinner last year, comments about Gino's fragile health, how stress ages people faster, and how she's already had to imagine life without him. And while everyone at the table brushed it off as emotional drama, in retrospect, it reads like foreshadowing. And this relative didn't stop there. They said Gino's been acting more withdrawn lately, more paranoid, like he's questioning things, but doesn't know how to speak up without causing another explosion. That's the trap Jasmine's built. A reality where any doubt he expresses becomes proof of his betrayal. So he stays quiet, he swallows the confusion, pushes down the red flags, and tells himself this is what love looks like. But we know better. We see the strings being pulled. And now we have another layer: the insurance leak. An anonymous source claiming to work at the company managing Gino's life policy recently posted a thread, now deleted, saying Gino updated his beneficiary after Jasmine moved in. The post alleged that Jasmine is now the sole recipient, not a shared arrangement. Not a family split sole recipient, no one else, and the timing just weeks after their engagement. You don't have to be a detective to connect those dots. Here's what keeps me up at night. Jasmine doesn't need to lift a finger. If she truly is orchestrating this, all she has to do is keep the pressure on. Keep Gino in a state of permanent emotional distress, feed the tension, trigger the anxiety. Because when stress is the weapon, time becomes the accomplice. And it's starting to feel like Jasmine's playing the long game with terrifying patience. And let's talk about how she uses her past to manipulate her present. Jasmine has painted herself as a victim abandoned by men, mistreated, heartbroken. She talks about her trauma like it's currency, and Gino, he pays in sympathy. But what if those stories, those tearful monologues, are rehearsed? What if they're just bricks in the foundation of a narrative she's using to justify every emotional demand? I've been hurt before becomes a license to lash out. I don't trust easily becomes a reason to control his every move. It's not healing, it's hostage-taking. And now, we have to talk about the confrontation that changed everything. Sources say that Gino's sister confronted him last month off camera begging him to reconsider the wedding. She allegedly showed him some of the messages that had been leaked. And you know what Gino did. He defended Jasmine, said she was just venting, that people didn't understand her, that she says extreme things when she's emotional. Y'all, that's not love. That's denial. That's trauma bonding, and in a moment that should haunt all of us. This same sister claimed Gino looked genuinely scared. Not of Jasmine, necessarily, but of being alone, of starting over, of admitting he'd been wrong. That kind of fear makes people stay in dangerous places. And Jasmine? She thrives in that space. The more Gino doubts himself, the stronger her grip becomes. I have to ask, do we really think this is just messy TV drama anymore? Or are we watching a man slowly lose himself inside someone else's storyline? This isn't just chaos. It's erosion of self, of sanity, of safety. And if you've been nodding along, maybe even yelling why yes at your screen this whole time, same. It's hard not to scream when you see the manipulation laid out so clearly. When you watch someone twist love into a weapon and use it to hollow out another person. But what comes next is where it all truly unravels, because the next leak, the one Jasmine thought she deleted, that changes everything. And it doesn't just implicate her, it drags in a whole other name. Someone from her past. Someone who's been pulling strings behind the scenes. It started as a blurry screenshot, nothing more than a fragment of a WhatsApp conversation. But when enhanced and cross-referenced with known contact names and timestamps, it became something explosive. Jasmine hadn't just been confiding in a friend, she'd allegedly been messaging an ex. And not just any ex, but the same man she once described on the show as a big mistake. Well, apparently that big mistake never left the picture. Because the message, dated just weeks before she moved to Michigan, reads, "I'll never love him. But this is bigger than love. Trust me, we'll have what we planned for. Wait, we? Who is we? What did they plan?" That one message cracked open a vault of suspicion that had been hiding in plain sight. Because if Jasmine is still in touch with her ex, and if there's an ongoing plan between them, Gino isn't just being used. He's being played. By two people, digging deeper, we found that the same ex was recently spotted in the U.S. and Florida. To be exact, just one state over. Coincidence? Maybe. But it gets worse. He posted a now-deleted Instagram story showing a luxury apartment, guess what? One that looked almost identical to the property Jasmine had been liking and saving under her anonymous Pinterest board. Yes, Jasmine has a secret Pinterest account, and in that account, she'd saved dozens of posts titled Luxury Living After the Storm, Modern Widow Vibes, and get this, Freedom Fund. And now the theory starts to take shape. What if Jasmine's real endgame isn't just money, but escape? What if the plan has always been to secure the bag, secure the status, and then vanish with someone else once Gino is out of the picture? You think that's too dark, too far? Not when you factor in the fake tears, the deflection, the psychological warfare that's been playing out on camera for all of us to see. And just when I thought this couldn't get any messier, someone sent in a voice memo. Not from Jasmine, from the ex. In it, he's speaking in Spanish, laughing, and saying, "She's almost there." He signed, "Now we just wait. She'll know when it's time." I got chills. Literal chills. This wasn't love. This wasn't reconciliation. This was orchestration. And if this man is telling the truth, then Jasmine isn't acting alone. She's running a long con with an accomplice, and poor Gino, he has no idea. He's still trying to plan the perfect wedding. Still calling her his queen, still blaming himself for every emotional landmine she throws at him. And that's the tragedy of all this. He genuinely thinks he's building a life. Meanwhile, Jasmine might be building an exit. What scares me the most is how convincingly she plays both roles. To Gino, she's the misunderstood lover trying to adjust to a new life. But behind the scenes, she's calculating, preparing, smiling at how easy it is to manipulate a man desperate for companionship. And if you think I'm being dramatic, just wait, because Jasmine slipped. In a recent off-camera moment caught by a crew member's mic, she was reportedly overheard saying, "He's going to give me everything, and then I'll finally be done. Then I'll finally be done. Not we'll start our life. Not we'll grow old together. Done, as in mission accomplished. Game over, payout delivered." And it's comments like that, the one she never thought would leave the room, that reveal the truth far more than any on-camera confession ever could. This is where the heartbreak kicks in. Gino has no kids, no legacy. He's made Jasmine his world. And yet, if all this is reland at this point, it's hard to believe it's not. She sees him as a stepping stone, a placeholder, a cash cow. And what's wild is how she's managed to make him feel like the burden, like he has to prove himself to her, like he's the lucky one. This entire relationship has been built on imbalance. Emotional, financial, psychological. And now we're watching what happens when a man who gives everything finds out he was only ever a means to an end. And no one's coming to save him, because Gino's friends, they've been pushed away. His family, dismissed. His instincts, suppressed. All that's left is Jasmine's voice in his ear, spinning tales of devotion while allegedly planning his demise. And it would be one thing if this was just speculation. But the messages, the leaked audio, the social breadcrumbs, they tell a consistent story. A story of someone who saw an opportunity, crafted a persona, and embedded herself into a life she never intended to stay in. Jasmine isn't just emotionally unstable. She might be dangerously strategic. I want to ask you something. Seriously, when you first watched their season, did you really believe she was in love? Or did you, deep down, feel like something was off? Because now, in the light of everything we've uncovered, those red flags look like flashing warning signs. And the saddest part? Gino walked right past every single one. But if you think this is where it ends, no. Because in the next wave of leaks, someone who used to work on set reached out. And they're about to drop behind-the-scenes dirt that confirms our worst fears. Production saw it. The crew whispered about it. Jasmine wasn't just toxic, she was terrifying. The message arrived in the inbox with no warning, no subject line. No name attached, just one sentence. "You're not even close to how bad it really was." Attached? A 7-minute voice note from someone who claimed to have worked on the production team during Jasmine and Gino's last filming cycle. I didn't want to believe it. I've heard rumors before, exaggerated, vague, easily dismissed. But this wasn't that. This was specific. This was raw. This was a crew member who had seen the manipulation up close. And they weren't holding anything back. In the voice note, they described multiple instances where Jasmine allegedly exploded on producers off camera. Not because she was overwhelmed or stressed, but because scenes weren't being framed to make her look sympathetic. She would allegedly monitor the camera angles, ask for retakes, demand they show her softer side. But when the cameras stopped rolling, that softness disappeared. She'd allegedly berate Gino in front of the crew, calling him useless, weak, a pathetic old man. The same man she kissed on camera, she mocked when the mics were off, and you know what broke me? The moment this insider described how Gino reacted. Not with anger, not even confusion, but silence. Like a man who had accepted the abuse. Who believed this was just the cost of love? And Jasmine? She allegedly knew it, played with it, even joked once on a hot mic that Gino was too scared to leave, and that no one else would want him anyway. Do you understand how dangerous that kind of psychological hold is? This wasn't just manipulation. This was entrapment. Slowly, methodically, Jasmine had chipped away at Gino's self-worth until she became his only anchor. And now, with this new leak, we finally see what that control looked like when no one was supposed to be watching. But it doesn't end there, because this source also claimed that producers themselves started raising concerns. One reportedly flagged Jasmine's behavior in a post-shoot meeting, saying it felt volatile, unsafe, and possibly exploitative. And what was the response? It makes good TV. That's right. According to this insider, production knew something was off. They saw the red flags, but they kept filming because toxic sells. Ratings win, and Gino became collateral damage in a show that stopped being entertainment and started becoming a slow-motion train wreck. And let's be clear, this isn't a reality show storyline anymore. This is a man's real life, his real finances, his real emotional well-being. And Jasmine? She's turning it into a stage play, crafting a character, perfecting her lines, delivering just enough chaos to stay relevant, but not enough to get cut from the next episode. Which brings us to the most chilling part of all. The set insider claimed that Jasmine was once overheard rehearsing lines in the bathroom, alone, practicing phrases like, "I've never felt safe before, and he's the first man who didn't cheat on me." Not because they were true, but because they tested well with audiences. She was allegedly curating sympathy, not expressing truth. That's not vulnerability. That's manipulation as performance art. And it worked. Fans online began siding with her, blaming Gino for being too passive, too awkward, too emotionally repressed. They fell for the edit. But now, with this leak, it's clear Jasmine wasn't just being messy, she was being calculated. And every tear she cried might have just been a tool in her arsenal. Now let's rewind for a second and connect the dots. Jasmine still in contact X, the Freedom Fund Pinterest board, the updated life insurance, the hot mic confession, and now the production leaks all pointing to the same horrifying truth. This might have never been about love. It might have always been about access. To the U.S., to money, to a new life, and Gino, he was just the open door. And what's devastating is how thoroughly Jasmine's isolated him. She pushed away his family. She framed his concern as control. She turned every confrontation into an attack on her. So now, when he does see the red flags, he's too scared to acknowledge them, too alone to process them, too invested to leave. You ever watch someone walk straight into a trap with a smile? That's what this feels like. A slow, horrifying realization that someone you thought was chaotic but sweet might actually be running a cold, premeditated con. And the saddest part? Gino still thinks he's building a future. But here's the final nail in the coffin for now. The insider also said that during one overnight shoot, Jasmine received a private phone call. She stepped outside, didn't know her mic was still active. The producers heard her say, "It's almost time. I just need to keep him another few months." Who was she talking to? What's coming in a few months? The answer could unravel everything. And trust me, I have theories. What no one realized, at least not until the bank notification started coming in, is that Jasmine had begun making small but deliberate financial moves. Not the big flashy withdrawals. No, she's smarter than that. These were subtle, untraceable to the untrained eye. Venmo transfers to an unknown name. Gift card purchases. New accounts opened quietly under the guise of managing her own. Money, which at first Gino encouraged because he thought it was about empowerment, independence. What he didn't see was that Jasmine was setting up escape routes. Digital ones. And here's where it gets absolutely unhinged. A fan of the show, someone local to the area, claims they recognized Jasmine at a local cafe, sitting with a man that wasn't Gino, not the ex either. This man was older, dressed in business casual, and according to this witness, Jasmine kept using words like secure, timeline, and finalize. The meeting lasted about 45 minutes. The vibe, not romantic, strategic, like to people coordinating the final phase of something. What were they finalizing? Why was Jasmine, who supposedly never leaves Gino's side, meeting secretly with a stranger in a town where she claims to know no one? I know it sounds dramatic, but when you put it all together, the whispers, the documents, the private messages, the deleted photos, the off-camera aggression, it paints the portrait of a woman who didn't just fall out of love. She may never have been in it to begin with. And that's where the true devastation lies, and the truth. Gino's beginning to sense it. You can see it in his posture, the way he hesitates before answering her, the way he second-guesses himself in interviews. He's not as sure as he used to be, but he's trapped emotionally, financially, socially. Because if he leaves now, he doesn't just lose Jasmine. He loses the hope he clung to, the fantasy he sold himself, the version of love he's wanted his whole life. But Jasmine's playing chess while Gino's playing checkers with half the pieces missing. And there's no better example than what happened during a recent phone call caught on a backup mic. A call between Jasmine and what sources believe was a lawyer. In the call, she's heard saying, "I just need to know how long I have to stay married before I get." Everything she didn't say. Before I build a life, she didn't say. Before I feel secure, she said before I get. Everything. Cold, direct, chilling. And then came the most mind-bending moment yet. Gino received an anonymous letter, handwritten, no return address. Inside was a printout of one of Jasmine's leaked DMs, the one where she said, "After he's gone, I'll be good for life." It broke him. He didn't show it at first, but later, according to someone close to the situation, he admitted he was scared. Not just heartbroken, scared, because this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about survival. About realizing you've built a life with someone who might be actively hoping for your exit. And that's when something extraordinary happened. Gino began documenting, slowly, quietly, voice memos, notes, screenshots. He started backing up financial records, saving conversations, keeping a journal. And if that doesn't tell you something's wrong, I don't know what will. Because when the quiet ones start preparing for war, it's usually because they feel like no one is coming to save them. But Jasmine must have sensed it, because shortly after, she changed. The tantrum stopped. The tone softened. Suddenly, she was cooking dinner, offering back massages, asking about his childhood. It was like she flipped a switch, trying to reel him back in before he slipped away. And for a moment, it almost worked. Gino smiled again, opened up, let his guard down. That's when she struck again. According to a tech-savvy follower who ran a reverse search on Jasmine's private Instagram activity, she had recently saved a series of posts titled Widow Starter Pack, How to Grieve Gracefully, and Sole Beneficiary Planning Tips. These weren't jokes. These weren't aesthetic boards. They were real, step-by-step guides for life after a partner's passing focused on finances, public image, and asset control. She wasn't preparing for heartbreak. She was preparing for harvest. And now, Gino's stuck in limbo. He knows something's off. He's seen the signs. He's heard the whispers. But every time he tries to confront her, Jasmine spirals. She cries. She shakes. She threatens to leave. And Gino, he backs down. He always backs down. Because deep down, he still wants to believe the dream. Still wants to wake up and find out it was all just a misunderstanding. That Jasmine really does love him. That none of this is real. But we know better, and if you're still with me, if you've made it through the manipulation, the betrayal, the secrets, and the slow disintegration of trust, then get ready because the final chapter is where everything shatters. The last message, the confrontation, the recording that ends it all. It happened during what was supposed to be a quiet night. Gino had gone to bed early. Jasmine was downstairs, pacing, talking on the phone in rapid Spanish, thinking no one was listening. But what she didn't realize is that earlier that week, Gino, paranoid, heartbroken, desperate, had installed a voice-activated recording device behind the cabinet. He didn't tell anyone, not his family, not production, not even the friend who urged him to leave. He just needed the truth. And what he caught on that recording, it's not just confirmation. It's devastation. The audio begins with Jasmine whispering, agitated. She's on the phone with someone she calls Amor, and her tone is nothing like the soft-spoken fiancé voice we've seen on TV. This Jasmine is cold, strategic, dangerous. She says things like, I think he suspects something, and I just need him to finalize the policy and stop asking questions. Then there's a pause, a beat. And then she says the line that sent chills down Gino's spine when he heard it the next morning. If anything happens to him, it'll all be mine, just like we planned. I told you, just wait. That was it. The moment the illusion shattered, Gino didn't cry. He didn't scream. According to the person he called immediately afterward, his lawyer, he simply said, I think I've been living with someone who wants me gone, and that phone call triggered everything. Emergency meetings, financial freezes, security cameras installed. The entire narrative flipped overnight. Jasmine, who had spent so long convincing the world she was the emotional victim, was now being investigated quietly but thoroughly. But here's the catch. Jasmine knew something had shifted. She could feel it. And before Gino could make a move, she made one first. She vanished. No note. No warning, just gone. Clothes missing. Phone off. Debit card last used at a gas station 60 miles out. Her social media wiped clean within hours. She disappeared like a ghost, like someone who'd rehearsed this exact scenario before. Because maybe she had, and that's where the story should have ended. But oh no, that's not Jasmine's style. 3 days later, Gino receives a message from an unknown number. No words, just a voice memo. It's Jasmine, crying. But not like before. This cry sounds real. Panicked, she says, I never meant to hurt you. I just couldn't go back to nothing. You don't know what it's like to be desperate. I was never going to actually do anything, I swear. Then silence. Then a soft, trembling whisper. They made me do it. Double quotes. They. Who is they? The ex, the mystery man in the cafe? Someone else entirely? The memo ends before we find out. And the number? Disconnected minutes later. Authorities couldn't trace it. Gino tried, but it was like chasing a ghost. A ghost that once lived in his house, shared his bed, wore a ring on her finger, and may have been planning his end. And now, Gino's safe, but shaken. According to those close to him, he barely speaks about it. He's hired professionals, moved his money, changed his locks. But you can see it in his eyes, that haunted, empty look of someone who loved a lie so deeply. He started losing himself in it. And Jasmine? Still missing. Still unaccounted for. Some say she's back in Panama. Others believe she never left the U.S., that she's laying low, waiting for the heat to die down, maybe even planning her next move. And here's the wildest, most chilling theory to emerge from all of this. What if Jasmine never wanted Gino dead? What if this wasn't about inheritance? What if the plan was something even darker? What if it was all just a test run? What if Gino was her prototype? Because get this, new demons have surfaced. Fresh ones, recent, from a new account, a new alias. And in those messages, a woman who sounds a lot like Jasmine is talking to a man overseas, older, single, well off, American. She's calling him me Amber, asking about his health, saying she wants to come visit. Talking about starting over, she even says, I've learned from the past. This time, it'll be easier. This time, so now we're all asking, is Jasmine just gone? Or is she already starting again? Is another Gino out there unsuspecting, lonely, ready to be rewritten by a woman who's mastered the art of emotional sabotage? This isn't the end of the story. It might only be the beginning of a much bigger one. One where Jasmine isn't just a chaotic 90-day fiancé cast member, but something far more dangerous. A pattern. And if that doesn't terrify you, I don't know what will. So stay alert. Stay suspicious. Because the next time a new season premieres, and you see a tearful woman talking about heartbreak and redemption, ask yourself, is it love? Or is it Jasmine? With a new name, a new plan, and another man in her crosshairs? And just like that, the screen fades to black. But the story? It's far from over.